Today, as the title suggests, we are going to be looking at my picks for the best level in every single 3D Mario game. And just so that way we're all clear and on the same page, I am specifically referring to the main levels in each of the games. So for example, something like the pachinko machine from Super Mario Sunshine is not eligible, although something tells me it probably wouldn't have won anyway. And in case if you missed it, my previous video was a companion piece of this one being the worst level of every 3D Mario game, so if you're interested, a link will be in the description to check that out. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to like and subscribe, and with that being said, let's go ahead and get right into the list, starting with Super Mario 64 / Super Mario 64 DS, as my pick would be the same from both games. Now, there are two specific levels from this game that I kept on wrestling with which one I like more, and it honestly is like the two most cliche ones I could have picked, but that is Bob-omb Battlefield and Whomp's Fortress. Starting off at Bob-omb Battlefield, I won't bore you with a whole lecture about how it was just so delicately designed in order to introduce the third dimension to the player, because everyone always talks about that. But at the end of the day, it's not incorrect. Like, Bob-omb Battlefield really is that level. I like almost every single mission here, maybe barring Mario Wings to the Sky because I'm not huge on the wing cap. But even then, the more and more I've played the game over the years, I've kind of gotten used to that one and kind of gotten into a rhythm of how to do it as efficiently as possible. But more than anything, Bob-omb Battlefield acts as a really fun playground to just run around in and just use the moveset of Mario 64 to your own free will. But, and maybe it's a hot take, I don't know, but I kind of feel like that's even more so the case with Whomp's Fortress. Generally, Whomp's Fortress feels more compact and squished together and more vertical feeling, which is funny because Bob-omb Battlefield is centered around a mountain, but where that level had the expansive grass fields for you to run around in and complete the missions, Whomp's Fortress is much more centralized. And once you get a handle on the controls of Super Mario 64, jumping around Whomp's Fortress just feels like a dream. Some of the similarities between the two levels are kind of funny. I like how the first mission of both has you escalating to the peak and doing a boss battle, and then the second mission has you going to the exact same location but in a different context. One difference between the two levels for me though is that Whomp's Fortress doesn't really have a single mission that I straight up don't like playing whenever I'm going through 64, even like the 100 coin star. Bob-omb Battlefield is probably the more important level, especially with the history of 3D platforming games, but Whomp's Fortress is the most fun level. Anyway, moving on over to Super Mario Sunshine, I already kind of knew right away which level I was gonna pick, although I do want to give a couple of honorable mentions. I think that Bianco Hills is a pretty neat starting level that, although not really having a core mission that just makes me go oh, I can't wait to play that one, it doesn't really have anything too offensive aside from the second boss fight with Petey Piranha. Other than that though, I think that the missions do a pretty good job at getting you acquainted with Flood, especially the second one that leads you up to the first boss fight with Petey Piranha and having you kind of escalate up the windmill. I also like Pianta Village quite a bit. Except for the Chuckster mission. Oh, I'm a Chuckster. Oh, go fuck yourself. But the only level in the game that really doesn't have a single shine I straight up don't like playing, at least out of the main 7 that you need to complete in order to beat the game, is Rico Harbor. Honestly, some of my favorite missions in the whole game are found right here in this level. Let's talk about the Cage Shine Sprite with the amount of different options it gives you with being able to escalate up all the girders. This mission specifically is one of the ones that really sells me on the idea of Flood. Racing on the different color bloopers is pretty fun as well. I also personally have fun with the mission that has you getting the red coins on the bloopers as well. It is maybe a little bit sadistic how the shine ends with you needing to do a Hail Mary jump in order to collect the shine, and if you fail then you probably will die, but honestly it's not that hard to miss, and it's kind of funny that they did this in the first place. I don't know, I think I've just played this game so much that I've just gotten to the point where I never fail at it anymore, so now I just find it funny. This level is also home to one of the few secret shines that I actually enjoy, the one with all the twisting logs everywhere that they even remade in Super Mario Galaxy 2. It is a genuinely pretty challenging platforming course that I still have a lot of fun doing to this day. And let's talk about the music. I love Rico Harbor's soundtrack and how it goes for this ska style. Honestly, the only real complaint I could possibly muster up about this level is the fact that you have to fight the Goober Blooper 2 times with virtually no changes. And while it is definitely a little bit annoying and derivative, one, it happens so many times in Super Mario Sunshine that that's more of a problem with just the game as a whole. And 2, I would rather fight a mediocre boss with no changes twice than have to do the Bianco Hills situation where the second boss fight is miserable. Moving on to Super Mario Galaxy, it is a game absolutely riddled with iconic levels, so I really had no shortage of options. Some of my personal favorites that I was weighing between choosing is stuff like the Honey Hive Galaxy, which I really like the theming and music for this one, and it has one of my favorite boss fights in the game for star number 3. It's not necessarily the hardest boss in the game to beat, not that any of them are really that difficult in the first place, and also it's early in the game so you wouldn't really expect it to be. However, whenever I start swerving from side to side, it does become pretty engaging for you to figure out how exactly to time your ground pound. This level is also the first introduction of the bee mushroom, which while I do sometimes feel like this power up is kind of pointless because you don't get a ton of air and it kind of takes away some of your platforming tools, I think Bee Mario has a pretty cool design. I think floating in the air is used pretty creatively throughout the game, especially here in a honey hive, so it doesn't bother me at all and I think it's pretty cool. Another galaxy I was heavily thinking about was Gusty Garden, not only holding one of the greatest pieces of music from any Mario game, but also it has another really fun boss fight against Major Burrows. And then you also got the Toy Time Galaxy, really playing into that whimsical, childlike feel of Mario games. But I can't help but shape the feeling like my favorite galaxy in this game just has to be Space Junk. For one thing, I am absolutely in love with the atmosphere and music for this level. In a game full of both of these things, this is honestly debatably the pinnacle. Maybe for music aside from Gusty Garden, but even then it's not too far off. I just love how the music is so relaxing while still holding a little bit of that melancholic edge underneath it. And whenever you connect the theming to the overall idea of this game taking place in a vast galaxy, this feels so at home with that entire concept. I really love how Stars 1 and 3 really play with the idea of you traversing around space just on random debris and random like spaceships and stuff like that. And while we're speaking of really cool boss fights, we can't not talk about the fight against Terrantox as star number 3. I like how it plays with the mechanics of the sling pods that are also introduced in the Space Junk Galaxy to make one of the most memorable fights in the entire 3D Mario series. It's definitely not the only good level in Galaxy, however, I would be lying if I said it wasn't my favorite. For Super Mario Galaxy 2, much like the predecessing game, it is absolutely filled to the brim with iconic levels, and for very good reason. I mean, where do I even start with this one? We could talk about Hightail Falls, with it incorporating the Dash Yoshi to have some of the most thrilling platforming in the entire game. And the music interpolating the Super Mario World athletic theme. Oh, it's so good. But then you got the Cloudy Court Galaxy really making fun use of the Cloud Mushroom, which is of course one of the best power-ups that we've ever seen in a Mario game. In some ways, most specifically the vibe of the level, it kind of feels like Galaxy 2's answer to Gusty Garden. And speaking of vibe, we can't not talk about the Space Storm Galaxy. I mean, not only is the platforming good, but the spectacle on here is just also like next level. But my absolute favorite level in the game kind of takes things down a peg and provides one of the most blissful and calming experiences I've ever felt in a Mario game. And that is because Cosmic Cove does the impossible and provides an experience from a water level that is above the sea, no pun intended, of other great levels from one of my favorite games of all time. I absolutely love how the first star has you navigating this really blissful cove, and then eventually you turn the entire set of water into ice and you just skate around, and it's so memorable. There's also just like little things here that I enjoy doing too for no real reason. For example, taking the little launch star up and collecting all these star bits in the air. It's really satisfying, and plus you get this really nice view. This level also contains one of the only bunny catching missions that's actually really fun because it also involves skating on the ice on this small planet. As is the case with the other levels I just talked about, also incredible atmosphere and music. I don't really know whether it's a hot take or not, nor do I really care, to be honest. It is just my personal favorite from the game. Super Mario 3D Land. Oh god. I talked about this in the previous video, but like the levels from this game are not exactly super memorable, and it definitely doesn't help that this is the only 3D Mario game where Nintendo doesn't really name the levels, so it makes it even harder to distinguish them. But on my most recent playthrough, I tried my best to take notes and really pay attention to what made the levels different, and here are a few of the ones that I nailed it down between. Level 3-4 has this admittedly pretty cool snow aesthetic where you have all these ropes that are able to jump between, and it is pretty satisfying to do so. The second half of the level also has these gigantic spiky balls floating in the air, swinging back and forth, that are kind of fun to dodge, although it is definitely very arbitrary that there's just randomly balls here, but we'll rock with it. Special World 2-5 is definitely not the only level in this game to incorporate the whole concept of these green tiles that stepping on will cause them to unfold, making the platforming more based on real-time reaction skills. But this is just the case where that concept is done the most interestingly to me. Level 7-4 is themed around a clock, which this isn't the first time 3D Mario has done it, but I mean, I probably prefer this one over TikTok Clock. Like, a random thing I like about this level is this part whenever you get to like go inside of the wall and then the whole area turns black and you're just surrounded by gears moving. I don't know, it's pretty cool. Actually, yeah, we'll go with that for our answer because this is like the only level from this game that I actually remember playing as a kid. Super Mario 3D World. For some reason, I just have way more nostalgia with with this game, even though I played both 3D Land and 3D World a lot as a kid. And both of these games also have a very similar philosophy of level design, that being taking the approach of a 2D Mario level and bringing it over to the third dimension. And Super Mario 3D Land also has perfectly fine level design, but just for whatever reason, I remember a lot of these levels way more. And thankfully, they actually have names again, so I don't have to keep on saying random numbers. Anyway, there's a few levels in this game that I particularly like. Snowball Park just makes me happy. Like, look, they even have little pokies made of snow. But the best part of this level has to be going ice skating. It is so satisfying. Tricky Trapeze Theater is a really fun level, mainly because of the aesthetic. I guess the most memorable part of this level is the middle, whenever you get to get a Mega Mushroom to just like trounce all over a bunch of piranha plants. Because like, dude, around this time period, Nintendo was just so horny for the Mega Mushroom. I like the circus theming though. Also, this game does have one of the most clever concepts for a level I've seen in a Mario game, that being the Great Goal Pole. It's pretty short, but it has you chasing down a flagpole in order to eventually catch up with it and complete the level. But right away, I already knew exactly what my pick was gonna be, and that is Double Cherry Pass. And the level itself is already good in a vacuum. I love the music, easily probably the best part of this game's really good soundtrack. And the Double Cherry alongside the Cloud Mushroom is one of my favorite power-ups ever introduced to a 3D Mario game. And it is collecting the green stars and the stamp for this level that really showcase the value that this power-up brings. Because suddenly, you have to be incredibly careful throughout the platforming and whenever you're fighting enemies, because if you finish the level without enough clones, you aren't able to collect all the collectibles. It's a small thing, but it honestly does make this one of the most memorable levels not only in this game, but just any 3D Mario game, at least for me personally. I feel like for Super Mario Odyssey, there really is no wrong answer to this question. Like, for one thing, the Metro Kingdom is a really rare case of a Mario game bringing about a city level, and it works so well. Not only is it filled to the brim with random Donkey Kong related references, even bringing Pauline back to the series, but it is filled with some incredibly memorable missions. And I've grown to really appreciate the Mecha Wiggler boss fight as being really engaging, and of course, you know, I can't not mention the City Festival. And more than anything, this Kingdom acts as a really cool playground for just messing around with the really good moveset from this game. I don't know, I think if the Metro Kingdom is your favorite kingdom in Super Mario Odyssey, that's completely valid, and I completely understand why, and it's probably my runner-up. However, there is just one kingdom whenever I replay the game that I really am excited to go back to even more, and that is the Wooded Kingdom. For one thing, even in a sea of incredibly iconic Mario songs, the Wooded Kingdom is easily my favorite one from the entire game. It also has probably my single favorite capture in the entire game, that being the uproots. These things are just so satisfying to control. I love the way they spring up and then just do a little bounce before they hop back down to the ground. This is also to me like the perfect size of a kingdom in Super Mario Odyssey. It is expansive enough to where it feels like there's a lot of secrets for you to find. However, unlike something like, say, the Sand Kingdom, it isn't so expansive to the point where it's almost like a little bit barren feeling. Once again, deciding between this and the Metro Kingdom was incredibly close because both of these kingdoms have so many things about them that makes them so memorable. However, I just had to pick the Wooded Kingdom. And finally, that brings us to, at the current point of this video being uploaded, the latest 3D Mario experiment that is Bowser's Fury. This is a pretty small scale experiment into what the potentiality of an open world 3D Mario could really look like. And because most of the levels here are pretty good, it was pretty difficult to nail down one specific one that I liked the most. However, I landed on Slip Skate Slope. I already mentioned before how much I absolutely love skating around in the Super Mario 3D World engine, and this level actually expands upon that idea even more. Collecting all the cat shards while going through this little tube-inspired obstacle course is both relatively challenging, but also so satisfying to go through. Perhaps the most creative mission here, though, is the one that involves you having to look for a key, which is easy to find. However, the escalation back to the original cage that holds your cat shine isn't anything but that. All of that is why it is the most memorable level for me from Bowser's Fury. Anyway, those were just my picks for the best level from every single 3D Mario game. But what about you, though? Feel free to let me know in the comments what your favorites are from every game and maybe what I got wrong from these picks. If you enjoyed the video, you should totally like and subscribe, as that is the best way to support the channel. As I said at the beginning of the video, my most recent upload was also the worst level in every 3D Mario game, so a link will be in the description if you are interested in checking that out. Thank you so much for watching, hope you have a great rest of your day, and as always, peace out.